Bismillah walhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa mawalah ma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Yusumullah here. So welcome everyone to week 1. We're now officially beginning with our 50 hours of core training. Okay, every week, inshallah, I will be providing you approximately between 2 and 2.5 hours of actual video spread over 3 pieces or sometimes 4 or sometimes even 5 pieces. I'm going to try to keep them about 30-40 minutes, the longer ones, and sometimes even less than that, 20-25 minutes. And the expectation from you is to just watch through the content before coming to the weekend morning session, and preferably twice. Okay, you can always come back to it, because after every 4 weeks of class we do have a week off that is placed in there in order for people to catch up and to consolidate and to be ready for when we resume. So keeping that in mind, let me just quickly go through the method. Okay, I won't belabor it. I won't talk too much about it, because the assumption is that if you're watching this video, then you've already heard me introduce the course to you, and you've read the 45-page report, and you've watched some of the content pieces that accompany the report. Okay, now there's going to be massive overlap between what was given in the report and in those training pieces and what I am presenting to you today. And the reason why there will be massive overlap is because we're dealing with the 4% of the language that gives you the broadest application, and by definition that 4% is distinct, and it's determined, it's isolated. And if I wanted to make the presentation significantly different, then I would have to grab another 4%, okay, which clearly is impossible, right? So you're going to see me talk about the comprehensiveness of the Arabic language at the word level in this video, okay, which would then lead into the introduction of Sarf. And I'll present to you the table layout, the 14 conjugations and why they're 14, and why we even need a table, okay, and why the emphasis and the stress. In the second video, we'll do the same with grammar, and we'll speak about the comprehensiveness of the Arabic language at the sentence level, which and then through the mapping process, which would then culminate in the definition of grammar. Okay, and we'll give you your first exposure to the human emotions and the facial expressions analogy. Okay, and in the third video, we'll develop the past tense verb by filling the slots, and that's it. That's week 1. Okay, and in week 2, we'll introduce more grammar terminology. Okay, more of the system will be revealed in week 2. Okay, and phrases will be spoken about specifically, which we did not do in the report, and which we did not do in the training videos that accompanied the report. And in the third week of class, we'll wrap up the introductory theory, and that would be by talking about sentences and getting into the two major issues that Arabic has that are solved through 2 mechanisms. So what are the mechanisms? What are the solutions to the 2 major problems? And the imperfect verb will also have been introduced and developed. And then the reading text begins in week 3. Okay, the 4 stages of growth were talked about in the training video that accompanied the report. I don't think I need to redo that again. Okay, but the teaching aspects will be repeated. So I'm just telling you in advance that there will be massive overlap and repetition. Okay, and I'm going to need to teach the content assuming that I'm sitting with a brand new group of students. Okay, because if I try to keep it significantly different, then it's going to create awkwardness, and I won't be able to express myself as I would like to. So having said that, let's now begin, inshallah. Another expectation from you is to only aim for 60-70% of the big picture, to understand the overall framework of how the language works. So now what we've done in this 2-year program, we've structured it in a particular way that we spent 2.5 weeks giving theory only, no examples, very few examples, no practice. Okay, and then from the 3rd week of class we start the reading text, and then this continues until the end of the 6th month. Guided reading stories of the prophets 1, which we spent about 16 weeks on, and then guided reading stories of the prophets 2, which we cover in 4 weeks. Okay, so and then the grammar text, the 132-page best book in the world for grammar, which continues for 6 months. And then in the 2nd year of the program we have tafsir, and we have a couple of books from Imam al-Ghazali. We have some balagha, rhetoric, advanced topics, and we have half of our classes taught in Arabic medium. So all of this is being done based on one purpose, and that purpose dictates all of our method, and that is to appreciate the miracle of the Quran. Because the Quran, what makes the Quran miraculous, and what makes it, what dumbfounded the Arabs was this special use of the language within the Quran. Okay, so that would be by understanding the basic mechanism of how meanings are conveyed, and knowing that a single meaning in Arabic could be conveyed in hundreds, if not thousands, of different ways. So if you have a verb and 2 nouns, you can arrange that in 6 different ways. Okay, Zayd hit Amr, you can do that in 6 different ways. So from those 6, 1 will be standard. So everything else being equal, that's what you would say. But then we have 5 others. So what do we do with those 5 others? So they're all unconventional, and they're all to be used at various stages, depending on the requirement of the situation. Okay, so there's an entire area of Arabic that speaks about what to do with the flexibility. Okay, hopefully this is clear, right? That you can convey the meaning in numerous ways, and then there's an entire area of the language that tells you what to do with the flexibility. So when the Quran uses the most appropriate structure from the hundreds, if not thousands, of ways that meaning could be conveyed, and then you combine with that metaphor and metonymy and the arguments, okay, because within the Quran we have logical arguments to establish the core beliefs of monotheism, messengership, and the afterlife, and then preempt and refute the arguments presented by the non-believers, the disbelievers, the pagans, the polytheists, and the various groups. So all of that is done in an extremely efficient way within the Quran, because the basis of Quranic expression is on brevity. So a lot of it will be there, but a lot of it will be ellipsis and parentheses, and it won't be there. Okay, so the language dictates a lot of that. Okay, so this is what we mean when we say tafsir. So in our second year of the program, we start immediately with tafsir. And when we're doing tafsir, we're giving you a top layer translation, and then we're also giving you an extended translation with all of the parentheses and the ellipses. You see? And then we have a special method. Okay, we'll speak more about how we conduct the tafsir sessions as we get closer to it, as we get closer to the indirection of the topic in the second year. Okay, and then we also teach half of our classes in Arabic medium. So the instructor would be teaching in Arabic, so that would give you the listening comprehension, and it would also give you how to formulate sentences when speaking normally. So it's not just about academic reading, but it's also about communicating. So the teacher will then instruct you to create essays, and he'll give you assignments where you have to watch particular pieces from scholars giving sermons, or just newscasts or anything. So everything that we're giving you here is not only will give you the strong reading comprehension, but it will also, as a welcome byproduct, lead to conversational fluency, but it has to be done later. So that's my point right now. So the focus is on understanding how the language works. Okay? And we want to ultimately get you into a continuous growth phase where you can proceed with self-study and study these books in Balagha, which are relatively large. Okay, and also the books in Tafsir, which again are very large, and then be reasonably sure that you're not making a mistake. You're confident and you understand what the scholar is saying, what the author is saying. Okay? So reading the books of the scholars, being able to access the books of Imam al-Ghazali and Ibn Taymiyyah and the Tafsir scholars, this is all part of our purpose, and many of our second year students are able to do that at this stage right now. So that's what we want for you, inshallah. So let's proceed with the vowels and the consonants. Okay, now this is about the alphabet. So I'm only going to spend about 4 or 5 minutes on this. And if you think you need review on the alphabet, then we have an entire course that we're providing to you as a bonus. And if you look in the video portal, there's a tab that says Foundations. Underneath that Foundations tab, you'll find multiple modules, and that will tell you from beginning till end everything you need to know about the alphabet. Okay, how to distinguish the letters, what are their subtle differences, advanced tajweed, and many nuances and interesting aspects of the alphabet is all covered there in the Foundations tab. Okay, so very briefly, we have these letters in the alphabet. They're all consonants. There's 28 of them. There's like a ba, which is the equivalent of a b. There's a ta, which is the equivalent of a t. Jim, lam, which is the equivalent of a l. Most of the letters in the Arabic alphabet do have English equivalents. Some of them don't. Okay, the assumption is that everybody's comfortable with the alphabet. Okay, what we don't have in the alphabet is we don't have vowels. They're not part of the alphabet, but they're needed, because without vowels you can't speak, and you can't articulate the consonants unless they're coupled with vowels, because when people speak, they speak in syllables, and a syllable is the sound that's achieved by combining both a consonant and a vowel. So where are the vowels so they're added on top and beneath through markings, which I'll give you on the next slide, inshallah. There's 3 of them, and together they correspond to A, E, I, O, U in English. So if you have the particular consonant and a marking on top of it, then this will give you B-O, or it'll give you B-E, or it'll give you B-A. So bu, ba, bi, and it's done with all of them, pretty much all of them. Some of them don't have that. Some of them don't have a marking on them, but instead they have the absence. So there's like 3 short vowels, and then there's the absence of vowel, and then there's duplicating, which we'll all talk to you about on the next slide, inshallah. The point is that from the 28 letters in the alphabet, you're going to need 3 of them in order to create a meaning, because meanings in Arabic are created by combining consonants in groups of 3. So if you take a noon, a sad, and a ra, and combine them and put them in that order, you'll get the associated meaning of to help. Jim, lam, and sin, group them in that order, you get the associated meaning of to sit down. Similarly, sheen, ra, and ba would give you the meaning of drinking. So what that means is that anywhere you find those 3 letters in that order, the drinking meaning will be there. But then since people don't speak in consonants, and it's actually impossible, if you take a K, a T, and a B and string them together, you can't do anything with that. You can only conceptualize it, and you can imagine it, but you wouldn't be able to speak it. So you're going to need vowels. So what happens now is that the vowels are introduced to the consonants in order to A, make those consonants pronounceable, because previously all you could do is conceive them, and B, they give you more meaning. They give you more meaning. Okay, and this is really important, and this is the purpose of today's presentation, is that to show you how the majority of the meanings, they're not coming from the group of letters. We're getting the help from the group of letters, but the tense and the voice, and if there's any added connotations, then that's not coming from the letters, they're coming from the pattern. Okay, so vowels are needed to pronounce words, and at the same time they also give you additional meaning. What exactly are those additional meanings? That will become clear in a couple of slides from now. Okay, so a vowel in Arabic is called a haraka, and the harakat in English are 5, A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y. In Arabic, the vowels are 3. The short vowels are only 3. And the reason why they're only 3 is because that's all we need in order to make the letters pronounceable, and in order to create the amount of configurations we need to convey all of our meanings. So if you want to indicate tense or voice, or so all of that can be done with 3, minimum 3, and that's all we have. So the first one is called a dhamma, and you're seeing it on the screen. That's how it looks, and it comes on top of the consonant. So a ba with one of those on top of it would create bu. The second short vowel is a fatha, and the symbol is a stroke that comes on top of the letter, and a ba with one of those on top of it will be ba. And our third one is a kasra, and this comes underneath the letter, and it creates an E or an I sound. So a ba with that underneath it would create B. Bu, ba, and B. Okay, now that's the bare minimum. You'd need a consonant and you need one of those in order to create a syllable. But sometimes syllables are 3-lettered. Like in English, we can have like many 3-lettered words, like the word fun. So the fa at the front is voweled, because without that vowel, then you can't do anything with it. Okay, but you put the vowel because fa, and then you can stop there, or you can add an N and say fun, fun. So, but then that N does not initiate a new syllable. You see what I'm saying? So whenever you have a consonant ending an already begun syllable without creating a new one, then there's no vowel there on that second consonant, but instead it would be absence of vowel. We call that sukoon, and it's represented with a circle. Okay, so like for example, that word sukoon at the top, the sin is voweled with the dhamma, the kaf is voweled with the dhamma, the waw there is not voweled, but instead is prolonging the dhamma, so we get ku, and then the end is nothing, just kun. So that noon, the last letter, I would consider that sakin, sukoon. Okay, now the last thing is that in English, when you have a word that has 2 syllables, and the first syllable ends in the same consonant that the second syllable begins in, then what they do in English is they write the letter twice, like the word funny or the word pretty. So funny is F-U-N-N-Y, and pretty is T-T-Y at the end. So pretty. In Arabic, they would not write the letter twice, but instead they'd write it once, and they put a particular symbol on top of it, which you see in the corner of the screen, the bottom right corner, and that's called the shadda. And what it means is it means pronounce the letter twice. So even the word shadda, if you just focus on that word shadda, which is on the screen, you see a sheen and a dal, and that's actually 2 dals. Shushad, S-H-A-D, shad, and then da, shadda, D-D. but when written is only written as one. So that hopefully that's all the symbols we need for now. Dhamma, Fatha, Kasra are the main three vowels. Sukun is absence of vowel, and Shadda is the duplicating of a consonant, pronouncing it twice. And the best way to understand that would be with funny and pretty. So basically, a word with two syllables, the first syllable is ending in the same consonant that the next syllable is beginning in. Okay, so with all of that, we can now proceed with our example. And the purpose of the example is to highlight the comprehensiveness of the Arabic language at the word level. Because here's the claim. The claim is that the majority of the meanings in Arabic do not come from the letters or the words, vocabulary, but instead they come from the patterns and the vowels and the grammatical structures. So the patterns and the vowels we're going to teach you today, and we're going to highlight that through one particular example, and the grammatical structures will be talked about in the second video. So let's proceed. Okay, so this is the topic of today's presentation: is comprehensiveness of the Arabic language at the word level. Sentence level will be talked about in the next video. Okay, so this is to give an appreciation and an idea of how there are more non-word meanings than there are word meanings, and this is what makes Arabic superior. This is the mechanism. This is the comprehensiveness, and then this will lead into the definition of sarf. So let's proceed. So here's the example: istansaru. The number of syllables are istansaru, 4 syllables. The hamza at the front. Okay, it's written in the form of an alif, but it's actually a hamza. So that's is. And then we have the ta and the noon combining together to create tan. And then the sad is on its own, and that's voweled with the fatha, so istansa. And then the ra is prolonged with the waw, so we get ru, istansaru. It looks like a single word. When you translate it into English, the translation will be they sought help. So you need 3 words to translate that. The total number of meanings are more than 3. So let's go ahead and dissect this. So they sought help. What is the first meaning that we're getting? The first meaning would be the help itself. Okay, they sought help, and that would be by the particularness of the 3 consonants within the word we have on the screen, and that would be the noon, the sad, and the ra. So these 3 consonants grouped together in this particular order is giving us the help. Okay, how do I know that? I know that because if I change the letters noon, sad, and ra to another group of 3 letters, like the food letters, which are ta, ain, and mim, because the word ta'am means food, then everything else would remain equal, and the word would change. It would become istat'amu. Istat'amu. Notice how it rhymes, and the translation would be they sought food. Okay, so clearly the help is coming from the particularness of the 3 consonants used in the middle, noon, sad, and ra. Okay, the next meaning we have is the seeking, the notion of seeking, because the translation is they sought help, and it's not they helped. And where is that coming from? That's coming from the 2 letters at the front, the sin and the ta. Because the minute I remove those 2 letters from the front and I say only nasaru, the meaning changes. It becomes they helped. The seeking goes away. The they part remains and the help part remains, but the seeking goes away. So that's coming from the sin and the ta at the front. Okay, the hamza at the very front is not circled. Okay, so what is it doing? So I would say that it's not contributing to the meaning, but instead it's enabling the pronunciation, because if you remove the hamza at the front, you get stun, which I'm able to pronounce, but in Arabic they don't have that. Many Eastern languages, they don't have words that begin with a consonant followed immediately by another consonant. Like stun is st, straight away. But instead they would have the s followed by a vowel and then the t followed by another vowel. So this is why people say sakul, or they say iskul. So now you know, it's because they're not capable of doing that. They don't have instances of that in their language, so they're forced to enable the pronunciation with the hamza. So that hamza at the front, there's no meaning associated to it. Okay, so what do we have so far? We have the help coming from the particularness of the noon, sad, and the ra, and we have the notion of seeking coming from the sin and the ta at the front. Third meaning would be the past tense, because the structure we have on the screen translates to they sought help. It could have been they seek help. It could have been they are seeking help. It could have been they will seek help, but it's none of those. Instead, it's precisely they sought help. So where is the past tense coming from? To answer that question, you would need to know about the other 2 kinds of verbs. You'd need to know the total. So the total amount of verbs in Arabic are 3. One is the one we have on the screen, which is what we call the perfect verb, the one that's already occurred. And the second verb is what we call the imperfect verb, present future. So we have a single verb that gives us both present and future tense. And then the third verb is the command verb. So when you're expressing a desire for an action to occur, and you say seek help, seek help. So by knowing what distinguishes the imperfect and the command from the one we have on the screen, we will be able to identify where we're getting the past tense from. So let me tell you, okay, I'm not teaching the topics. Okay, the point here is to highlight the comprehensiveness. If you've been with us in the past, then you can relate more to what I'm talking about. But even if you haven't, and you're seeing this for the first time, okay, the point is just to highlight comprehensiveness. Okay, so in order for a verb to be an imperfect verb, it has to have a particular letter at the front, in addition to the sin and the ta, because the sin and the ta is giving us the seeking. So in addition to that, you're going to need a prefix, either a ya, a ta, a hamza, and the hamza has a fatha, or a noon. So you get yastan, tastan, astan, nastan. What I'm saying is that the verb would need to begin like that. It would need to begin with one of those four letters at the front. In the absence of the four letters, the verb cannot be an imperfect verb. Okay, so it's absence. So I put an X there on top of the on top of the hamza, which means that we don't have one of the four letters that needed to be there in order for the verb to be imperfect. And the command verb has a particular vowel on the sad. Instead of a saru, it would need to be istan siru, siru, and then that would be command verb. The translation would be seek help when speaking to a group of males. You see? So it's the combination of the absence of the prefix at the front and the fatha on the sad that pinpoints the verb on the screen being a perfect verb. Okay. The fourth meaning that's coming from the structure would be the active voice, because the verb is attributed to the doer. Is they sought help. It's not help was sought from them. So when we say they, we're speaking about the doer of the help, of the seeking, and not the people from whom the help was sought. So where's that coming from? That's coming from pure vowels. It's coming from this kasra underneath the hamza, is, because the other one would have us. That would be a different vowel, the passive one. The translation there would be different. It would be help was sought from them. So what is distinguishing the verb on the screen being an active verb as opposed to passive is coming from this vowel. It's also coming from the one on top of the ta, because that one in the passive structure will be tun, us, tun. And also this the fatha on the sad, because that would need to be siru. So here it is, us, tun, siru. And I don't have it written on the screen because, again, I'm not teaching the topic. It's just that it would need to be different. If you understood the fact that that one would be different and how it would be different, then that's sufficient for our purposes right now. So we have istan saru as opposed to ustun siru, and this topic of how to create passives will be given at an appropriate time. Okay, so initial help coming from the noon sadra, notion of seeking coming from the sin and the ta, the past tense coming from the absence of the letter that needed to be there in order for the verb to be imperfect, and also the fatha on the sad, because the command one has a kasra on the sad, right? The fourth meaning, the active voice, is coming from the particular configuration of three vowels, not one or two, but all three of them together are contributing and giving us active voice. And again, active means that the verb is attributed to the doer, that we are actually conveying that the particular action occurred by a group of males. So the group of males are the one doing the action, as opposed to the action occurring by someone else, and the group of males being the object. That would be passive. Okay, so just contrast the two translations. They sought help. Contrast that with help was sought from them. So change those three vowels and it becomes help was sought from them. Keep them the way they are, it becomes they sought help. So we have four meanings so far. Meanings 5, 6, and 7 are included within the they, because when we say they, we are talking about the subject. It's not you, it's not I, it's not we. Okay, and then beyond that it's males, because had it been a group of females, then the letter for that would be a different letter. And that different letter will be taught to you in the third video of week 1. The point right now is not to give you the total possible ways that the meanings can be conveyed, but it's just to show you that what we have on the screen is particularly they group of males. So the masculine gender is coming from the wow, okay, because for females it would be another letter. And the fact that it's a group is also coming from the wow, and the fact that we're talking about them is also coming from the wow. So let's recap that quickly. So the first meaning is the help, coming from the particularness of the noon, sad, and the ra. The second meaning is the notion of seeking, coming from the sin and the ta at the front. And the third meaning is the past tense, and this is coming from ruling out the other two kinds of verbs in the language, because the total is 3. It's like if you have a house that has 3 rooms in it, and the person walks in the house through the door, and there's no windows, and we go check in the first room, he's not there, check in the second room, he's not there, what does that mean? That means by rational necessity, he needs to be in the third, he can't be in neither. Okay, because we've already determined that it's a verb. Okay, so we've ruled out present, future, we've ruled out command, so that means, and how is that done? That's done by the absence of the prefix at the front, okay, which needed to be there in order for the verb to be imperfect, and also by the fath on the sad, because in the case of the command, that sad would have had a kasra, istansiru. Okay, and then the meaning would totally change. It would become seek help when speaking to a group of males, as opposed to talking about a group of males. So you see, this a single change in the vowel radically changes the kind of verb, and the entire translation, everything changes. It's no longer third person, it becomes second person. You see, so keep that in mind also. And then the fourth meaning would be the active voice, and that's coming from pure vowels, not one vowel, but a configuration of all three of them together, giving us the active voice. Meanings 5, 6, and 7, the masculine gender, the plurality of the subject, the fact that it's a group, and the third person aspect of the subject, all three of those meanings are coming from the waw at the end. So what is this? This is comprehensiveness at the max. That what looked like a single word, is conveying 7 meanings. English tried to do this, and they needed 3 words to do it. They said they sought help, and even that's not precise, because they does not distinguish between a group of males and a group of females. But whereas our letter, the waw, clearly means a group of males, because if I wanted to say group of females, I would have used another letter. You see? So this is comprehensiveness, and this is why if you take a passage in Arabic and translate it into English, you would need at least 3 times the amount of words. Previously I used to say 2, but if you look at it, it's actually 3 times the amount of words you'd need. Like, just look at what's on the screen. This is a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. He said, "U'titu jawami al-kalim." I was given words of great comprehensive meaning. Okay, وَاخْتُصِرَ لِيَ الْكَلَامُ اخْتِصَارًا. And speech was really made concise for me. Really. Okay, the word really is not there in the translation, but it's really made concise for me. Okay, so he's talking about his own aptitude and his talent, because he was more eloquent than everyone. Okay, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him a particular impactful speech that he was able to convey his meaning better than anyone. Okay, but he's also talking about the language, because the language has these things built into it. So now count the number of words, what looks like words. Okay, like we're not going precise. U'titu, that's 1. Jawami, 2. Al-kalim, 3. And then the wa is a word. Okay, it means and. And then ukhtusir would be number 5. Li, number 6. Okay, al-kalam would be 7, and ikhtisaran would be 8. 8. 1, 2. Now compare that to the English. Okay, I was given words of great comprehensive meaning. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 9, and speech was really made concise for me. Okay, you see? 8 in Arabic. Okay, over in English we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, the word really, 15. 8, 15, so it's almost double. It's almost double. And then much of that was lost in the translation. Okay, which we're going to need to teach you in the second video. Like if I spent some more time on it and tried to give you the precise, exact translation of what's there in the Arabic, I would need even more than 15. You see, so that's your first exposure at comprehensiveness. So the majority of the meanings, they're not coming from the words. Where are they coming from? They're coming from the pattern and the vowels. And we saw that in the istansaru example, because only the help was coming from the particularness of the 3 consonants. The rest of the meanings, they weren't coming from the consonants. They were coming from the pattern and the vowels. And when I say pattern, I'm talking about the configuration of the vowels, and I'm also talking about the absence. Okay, which we use to distinguish from the imperfect verb, and the letter at the end, the designated letter at the end, the waw, that was giving us the group of males. Okay, so we have here the letters. That was the first meaning, was the letters one, the noon, the sad, and the ra. But beyond that, they weren't coming from the letters; they were coming from the vowels. Okay, the pattern. Okay, and the seen and the ta is part of the pattern, and then the absence, which we use to distinguish from the imperfect verb. So this is what it's all about. Okay, so the help was coming from the dictionary. The rest of the meanings, the dictionary assumed that you already knew them. In other words, you can't use a dictionary unless you know this. So where are they coming from? They're coming from this particular science, which we call sarf. So meanings 2 through 7 are coming from sarf. So basically, sarf has an A and a B. Patterns and endings. Sarf is the science of classical Arabic that gives you patterns of vowelization, which often involves the addition of non-base letters. Okay, Yeah, so it includes these vowel configurations, and it also includes the non-base letters, and together that is what we call patterns, and it gives you the tense, the voice, and the added connotations. In our example, it was the notion of seeking, that's coming from the pattern. And then it gives you the designated endings, or the suffixes, or that letter at the end, that wow at the end, and that gives you the gender, the plurality, and the person of the one doing the verb. Okay, so now 2 of our 3 topics that we wanted to cover in this first video are now over. We've highlighted the comprehensiveness of the Arabic language at the word level, and we've given you the istansaru example to do that, and that led to the definition of sarf. So one more time, what is sarf? Sarf is the science of classical Arabic that gives you patterns and endings. Okay, by patterns we mean the vowel configurations and the non-base letters that might be there in addition to the 3 letters, the initial ones. There might be more, there might be a 4th and a 5th. So that's part of the patterns, and together all of that gives you the tense, the voice, and the added connotations. In our example, the tense was the past, the voice was active, and the added connotation was notion of seeking, and it could be other connotations beyond that, like hyperbole. Like you have cutting versus dicing. Cutting is when you cut it once, or shredding. And shredding is when you like really cut it multiple times. So we have qata'a versus qatta'a. Qata'a means cut, and qatta'a means shredded. Okay, or qatala versus qatala. Qatala means killed, and qatala means fought, when each person is attempting to kill the other person. So that's qatala yuqatilu, as opposed to qatala. Qatala means to kill. So if you compare qatala and qatala, you'll notice that qatala involves the addition of an alif in the middle. So what is that alif? That alif is part of the pattern, and the purpose behind the extra letters is to enhance the meaning coming from the base. So not only do we have helping, but we have seeking help. You see, not only do we have cutting, but we have cutting numerous, multiple times, shredding, like that. Not only is it killing, but it's each one attempting to kill the other. That's fighting, like that. So I just gave you several examples there to help you understand what we mean by added connotations, and more on that later as we proceed with the reading text, and you start seeing examples of this. Now the designated endings in our example was the wow. So now the question is, along with the wow, how many other endings can we have? So we already know that it could be a group of females. Okay, so it could be a group of males. We can be talking about the group of males. We can be talking to the group of males. We ourselves can be the group of males, like we. Or it could be females, talking about a group of females, talking to a group of females. Or we ourselves could be a group of females speaking about ourselves. You see that? And so we have singular, we have gender, like masculine and feminine, that we need to deal with. That the subject could be masculine, the subject could be feminine. And all of that will be reflected at the end of the verb. So that letter would change. The first 85% of the verb would remain the same, and that last letter would change in order to reflect for us the gender, the plurality, and the person of the one doing the verb. So when you take the verb and combine it with that letter, then this is called conjugating. Okay, and there's a heavy emphasis on conjugating in teaching Arabic, classical Arabic. Any methodology that neglects this or does not give it the due amount of time that it demands, then that would be a deficient teaching method. Okay, why do we have so much heavy emphasis on conjugating and verb tables? So because we need to know that the one doing the verb is a male or a female. We need to know whether the one doing the verb is one, or is it more, is it a group, and whether we're talking about them, talking to them, or are we ourselves the one doing the verb. And this impacts the verb. And here's the important point you need to understand, that in English, number one, the number is small. There's not too many of them. Okay, in Arabic we have this gender, masculine versus feminine. There's no neutral, okay, which is different. In English we would have an it. We would have a he, a she, and an it. And in Arabic it's only masculine and feminine. So basically all inanimate objects would also have to be assigned a gender, and that's taught in grammar. So right now we just want to give you the number. The number is 2, masculine and feminine. Plurality, we have a dual, which is unlike other languages, because other languages only have singular and plural for them starts on 2. 2 or more is considered plural. In Arabic we have a separate form to indicate 2, and then our plural begins at 3. So singular, dual, plural. So what that means is we have they. We have 4 theys. We have a they that refers to 2 males specifically, and then a they which is group of males, and group starts at 3. And then another they for 2 females, and another they for a group of females. My point is that they'll all be different. Okay, so there's very little overlap. Okay, so in plurality we have singular, dual, plural. Take that number, multiply with the previous number, we get 6. So he, they, she, they. So 1 male, two males, group of males, one female, two females, group of females. And then we have person. Okay, we'll either be talking about the six, or we'll be talking to the six, you speaking to a male, you speaking to two males, you speaking to a group of males, one female, two females, group of females, or we ourselves, like one person speaking about himself, two males speaking about themselves, group of males speaking about themselves. So we'd multiply the number further by 3, we'd get 18. So this is a big number. It's large. Okay, it starts off 18 and then it's reduced to 14, which I'll show you in a couple of slides. But in English, the numbers total 6. What are they in English? He, she, they, you, I, we, and that's all. Okay, so basically it doesn't matter who you're speaking to, whether it's a male or a female, you're going to say you. It doesn't matter that the one you're speaking to is one or a group, you're going to say you. But in Arabic, they'll all be different. Okay, we'll have a different way of saying you to a male, a different way of saying you to a female, a different way of saying you to two males, and a group of males, two females, group of females, so we'll get 6 yous. Whereas English only has 1 you. You get it? And even with they, English doesn't distinguish between whether it's a group of males or group of females. In Arabic, we would have a separate they, and not only one, we'd have 4 of them. Okay, one for the two males, one for the group of males, one for the two females, one for the group of females. You see, so the number is very large. And the next very important point is that in Arabic, the verb and the pronoun are written together in a manner that it looks like a single word, like we saw in the istansaru example. In English, it would not be like that. In English, the verb would remain separate and the pronoun would remain separate. There would be a space in between. You would say he slept, she slept, they slept, you slept, I slept, and we slept. So the slept doesn't change. But in Arabic, it would actually change. It would look as if the same word, the single word, is being repeated 14 times, slightly different. So when the number is large and it looks as if the same word is being repeated so many times, slightly different, then this calls for a table. This calls for a table. So in this session, we're going to give you the table layout, and in the third session of week 1, we'll fill the slots for you, and we'll introduce for you the first of the 3 major verbs, which is the past tense verb. We call it the perfect verb. And then in week 2, we'll give you variations of the perfect verb. And then in week 3, we'll give you the imperfect one. And then for several weeks, we'll develop the imperfect, giving you variations of the imperfect. And eventually, we'll end with the command and the negative command. And this will give you all of the possible tables and all of the possible verbs in the language. Okay. So, one second. Yeah, so here you're seeing the table layout for the third person. Okay, so these are the third person 6. So there's the he, and then if you're talking about two males, that would be they, and then speaking about a group of males, they. Okay, it's pretty straightforward, self-explanatory. If you want to pause the video at this stage right now and try to focus on the way it's laid out, numbers from 1 till 6, these are the third person ones. So be able to say he, they, she, they, 6 U's. On the next screen, we have 6 U's. And that's when you're speaking to one male, when you're speaking to two males, when you're speaking to a group of males, speaking to one female, speaking to two females, speaking to a group of females. Now, the Arabic verbs that we use, or the pronouns that we use to convey all of these meanings will be different. And that's the whole point. That we're going to have 6 different ways of saying you, depending on who you're speaking to. And then in the bottom, in the first person, we should also have 6 here. Like I for one male, we for two males, we for a group of males, I for one female, we for two females, we for a group of females. But then the other people, they condense it. And they just say I and we, and dual becomes irrelevant. So it doesn't matter if there's 2 people speaking about themselves, or men, or if there's 2 women speaking about themselves, they'll use the same one. So 13 and 14. And if there's like a group of males and a group of females that are doing a certain action, then masculine plurals is what they use. Like for example, the third one. The third one is the one they'd use if it was like they, group of males and females, performed a particular action, then number 3 would be used for that purpose, in case you had that question in your mind. And I normally get that question, so I went ahead and preempted it for you. Okay, not a big deal. It's just convention. It's convention. This is how the other people chose to do it. Or they could have used number 6 to convey the group, but that's not what they did, right? So we just need to remain consistent with what's already there. Okay, so that is that for the group of males, number 3, for the group of females, number 6, and if it's a combined group of males and females, then the third one will be used for that purpose. Now, in the 14th one, it doesn't matter if the speaker's a male, if the speaker's a group of males, 2 males or group, 2 females or group, it will be the single number 14 that's used for that purpose. So it's condensed, I and we. And now it's people now, it doesn't matter. Gender becomes irrelevant, and dual also disappears. And this is our table of 14, and at this stage, all you need to be able to do, is repeat after me. He, they, she, they, 6 yous, I, and we, and this concludes the session. And in the third session of week 1, we're going to give you your first table. In other words, we're going to fill the slots. Okay, and that will be by giving you the model. In other words, the 3 consonants you get from the alphabet, that gives you the meaning of hitting and helping and sitting and standing and eating and drinking. How do you vowel those 3 consonants in order to create the past tense? So the configuration of vowels will be given to you, and then the designated endings list from 1 till 14 will be given to you. Combine the model with the endings and you have a table. And then from there, we'll teach you how to create passive. So when you have the active, then what modification of the active needs to be done in order to create passive. This will all be taught to you, inshallah. And I will do it without too much speed. I'll try to speak a little slowly. So if you pay attention to that third video, by the time you're done with it, you will have memorized 80% of the table. So this significantly reduces the amount of time you need to spend, apart from watching the videos. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the first session. And let me, since it's our first one, I'm gonna leave behind a few closing comments, and then I'll end this presentation. Okay, so we're in startup phase, and we just want to convey to you the big picture. Okay, we will be drawing on advanced topics. Okay, for the purpose of contrast. Like in that extensive example, we talked about active versus passive. We spoke about they group of males, and I said it would be a different letter if it needed to be a group of females. And we contrasted with the imperfect, although we haven't taught the imperfect. The imperfect verb hasn't been taught, but for the purpose of our discussion, I needed to tell you that the imperfect would be like this. In the absence of that, it can't be imperfect. So there was some shortcutting, okay, because comprehensiveness, you need to be convinced that Arabic is indeed unique, and it is the most superior language on the planet for the conveyance of meaning. This is true at the word level, and it's also true at the sentence level. So the majority of meanings in Arabic don't come from the words, and that was the point behind that example. So hopefully you got that, and you understand this entire area that deals with verb tables is called sarf, and it gives you pretty much just 2 things. It gives you the patterns and the endings. And when we say patterns, we're talking about vowel configurations and sometimes the addition of non-base letters. So the verb becomes bigger, and the purpose of that addition is to enhance the meaning come from the base. And the endings, there's 14 conjugations, so each one will have an ending. And that ending will tell you whether it's a male or a female. That ending will tell you whether it's 1, 2, or a group. And that ending will tell you whether we're talking about them, we're talking to them, or are we ourselves the doer of the verb. So I'm going to end this here. And hopefully I was able to preempt everything. And if there's an angle that I missed, then since I've been doing this so long, and I noticed that students have questions, and that's fine, and that's why you should get a forum account. Okay, one of the emails that come to you in the autoresponder will be asking you for a forum username, and then my assistant, Sister Rahima, will create for you a forum account, and it would be better if you post on the forum. Okay, underneath the video, I don't know, like you can post underneath the video as well. But first, I would recommend reading the transcript, trying to really understand it, and if the question persists, then go ahead and post. I'm not trying to discourage you, but I'm just saying from the 30 angles that could possibly have been talked about, if I miss one angle, then it would be better if you try to figure it out and try to be a little resourceful. And just remember that 60-70% of total comprehension and retention is what we want from you at this stage. Okay, and be able to repeat the 3 topics, like the 3 topics that were covered in this video. You should be able to teach it to someone else. Okay, so that would be by creating your own mini presentation and synthesizing it. And you don't have to parrot my words exactly the same way I did it, but you should have something. Okay, and then you move on to the second video, and we'll see you inshallah in the weekend session. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.